other week, a company called Jin got in touch with me to ask if I'd review its new e-bike. Now, normally I'd pass on the offer because, well, 2 wheels, handlebars, pedals, 15.5 miles an hour. What else is there to say? But then they told me that this bike offers things that normally you'd only get on a bike costing 2 or 3 times as much. That's quite a big claim. But is it true? Isn't it extraordinary how the price of e-bikes has gone up in recent years? I bought my Cube e-bike about 4 years ago, and if e-bikes were coming along anything like computers, there should be a newer model now that goes at twice the speed for double the range at half the price. But no! What's actually happened is that the latest bikes still go at the same speed, have maybe 25% more range, but cost twice as much. So when Rahul and Marina from Jin called me to say that they have a bike with all the features of a premium bike for half the price, well, this I had to see. So a few days later, they brought one over for me to test. And since they were here, I invited a few friends over to come and have a look over it. We all agreed straight away that the Jin X is a pretty good looking bike. Though now I come to think of it, I'm not sure I can ever remember seeing an ugly bike before. The Jin X here has got one of those frames that's halfway between being a man's bike with a crossbar and a lady's step through. I'm not sure what that makes it. A ladyboy bike perhaps? No, probably not. Gender neutral is probably more accurate in this day and age. Anyway, what about the features? Well, as standard, this bike comes with 2 wheels, one at the front and one at the back, 1 pedal on each side of the bicycle, a seat, and some handlebars. So far, so good. So what else? Well, the derailleur, the gears and the gear change lever all come from Shimano, which is a good brand. It's got 7 gears, by the way. It's also got CST Jack Rabbit tubeless mountain bike tyres, which are good on road or off. It's got Zoom hydraulic disc brakes front and rear and a KMC rust-free chain. Now, the bike does normally come with mudguards front and rear, it's just that this one's a loaner and it didn't happen to have them. It also comes with an integrated front light, a detachable rear one, and an electric horn. I think I prefer a bell, but that isn't a deal breaker. Now, as far as power goes, it uses a Bafang 250 watt motor integrated into the rear wheel and a cadence sensor to regulate the power. The really big party piece, though, is that it's got a 615 watt-hour battery, which pops into the frame underneath here. Now, that's right at the top end of what you can expect on any e-bike these days, and it means this thing should have a really decent range. By comparison, my Cube only has a 500 watt-hour battery, and my friend's, which is top of the range and costs 3 times as much, has a 650 watt-hour battery. That's a negligible difference. 2 other interesting features on this bike. Road bikes in the UK are restricted by law so as not to give you any assistance over 15.5 miles an hour. This bike has an unrestricted mode, which means the motor will keep giving power up to more like 20 to 25 miles an hour, depending on how fit you are. Now, obviously, de-restricted mode is for off-road use only. Obviously. I mean, it would be just a little bit illegal to use the bike unrestricted on a public road. Using de-restricted mode will eat up your battery and reduce your range, but it is quite nice, or so I've heard, if you're cycling with friends and want a short burst just to catch up with someone ahead. This bike also has a throttle, and that means it'll move entirely under its own steam without you pedalling at all. Again, it would be quite illegal to use that on a public highway. One other really important thing, and that is that this bike is really light for an e-bike. It weighs in at only 19 kilos, and that's a good few kilos less than my Cube, my wife's Specialised Vado, my friend's Van Moof, or another friend's more recent Cube model. That really matters when you're lifting these things into the back of your car or onto a trailer. And of course, the lighter the bike, the more range you'll get out of it. Anyway, let's take this thing for a ride. So the first thing you notice about this bike is that because it uses a cadence sensor, there's just the slightest lag before the power kicks in. And it does so a little bit more suddenly. Not that it's going to throw you off or anything, it just feels a little bit more, well, agricultural than my Cube. And likewise, when you stop pedalling, there's just the slightest delay before the power drops away. But once you're on your way, the next thing you notice is that this is a really comfortable ride. This loaner bike has a sprung and padded saddle, which is a £50 optional extra, and that combined with the chunky tyres really absorb the bumps. Perhaps not quite as well as the Connect seat post suspension I have on my Cube, but not far off it. Well, I'm now off the public highway, so let's see what this throttle does. 3, 2, 1... go! I'm not sure I'm going to get any whiplash injuries from this. For me, the whole point of having a bicycle is to get some exercise, so I couldn't really imagine when I'd use this feature. Except perhaps if I was so drunk I couldn't find the pedals. One other thing about this bike is that the motor is a little bit noisy under load, i.e. when you're going up a hill. I'm going to strap a microphone to the back and show you what I mean. One other small thing is the battery meter, which shows how much you've got left. The problem is that the percentage drops dramatically when you start pedalling, which is not great if you suffer from range anxiety. Still, it returns to the correct reading if you stop pedalling for a few seconds, so I could live with that. Next, I went off with some friends to test the range of this bike, riding from the village of Mells, just 10 letters down the alphabet, to the cathedral city of Wells. Now I should probably add that I weigh about 90 kilos, it was a cold day, and the route took in a couple of very, very long hills. But sure enough, 12.5 miles later and we've arrived here in Wells, and I've still got 71% on the battery. Then, after a quick cup of coffee and a bite to eat, we headed back. So I've made it back to base, and there's still 40% left on the battery, and that's over 25 miles later, so that's really pretty impressive. So there we have it. This Ginex is a good-looking bike. It's a comfortable ride, and if you're an overweight man cycling up hills on a cold day, you should get 40 miles out of it, which is right up there with a £3,000 Cube. On the flip side, the power delivery is a bit like you might find on a tractor. The motor sounds a bit like a tube train when you go up hills, and for the moment anyway, the battery meter only tells you how much range you have left when you're not pedalling. But these are minor grumbles. The fact is you're getting a comfortable, well-equipped e-bike with an impressive range for less than £1,000. That's a bargain. Would I swap it for my Cube? I tell you what, it's a close-run thing. I mean, for sure, my Cube is a bit more refined, but is that really worth the extra £1,000 or £2,000? I certainly wish I bought my daughter one of these rather than the Switch conversion for her old bike. In fact, I've got a friend with rather a lot of daughters who bought 2 of these as family bikes on the basis that she's effectively getting 2 for the price of 1. So if you know anyone who's in the market for an e-bike that offers an awful lot for their money, you might like to share this film. Otherwise, till the next time, I've been Arlo Guthrie. Bye-bye.